Hello everyone, RJ is back again. Today I have one more story, the last invention of death. Death had one problem. People feared him for the wrong reason. They feared that he would end your life. He had never done that. Life ended itself long before he arrived. So death made a new invention. He called it the second death. It happened before the first one. One evening, a young engineer returned home from work. He was tired. He had planned to study. Instead, he opened his phone just for 10 minutes. The light suddenly went out. Someone was sitting in his chair, an old man, thin, bent, silent. Who are you? The old man answered. I died 43 years ago. The engineer frowned. But you are alive. The old man smiled. No, my heart is still beating. I am talking about the day I stopped becoming. The engineer laughed nervously. What are you talking about? The old man pointed toward the phone lying on the table. It didn't happen because of the phone. It happened because of the sentence behind it. The engineer looked confused. What sentence? The old man spoke softly. Not today. The first time I said it, nothing happened. The hundredth time, nothing happened. The thousandth time, he looked around the room. I disappeared. The engineer looked carefully. The old man's hands were becoming transparent. You are fading. No, I faded decades ago. This is simply the first time someone has noticed. The engineer whispered, what killed you? The old man answered, nothing. That is why no one tried to save me. I attended birthdays. I went to work. I paid my bills. I laughed. I retired. I even attended my own children's wedding. I was alive enough that nobody asked whether I still existed. The engineer stared in silence. The old man continued. One day I realized something terrifying. I could remember every movie I had watched, but not the last time I had willingly done something difficult. I could remember thousands of excuses, but almost no act of courage. I had become expert in consuming and a beginner in creating. The engineer's voice trembled. What happened after that? The old man smiled with unbearable sadness. Nothing. I had already become the kind of man who always waited until tomorrow. The room grew colder. Death itself entered. He carried no weapon, only a mirror. He handed it to the engineer. Inside the mirror stood the same old man. The engineer dropped it in horror. That is impossible. Death shook his head. It is inevitable. Unless you interrupt the story. The engineer looked at Death. How much time do I have? Death answered. I don't know. I am not asking about my first death. I know. Death looked directly into his eyes. Neither do I. Your second death can happen tonight. It happened the moment you stopped believing that difficult thing belonged to you. The old man stood. He walked toward the engineer. For the first time, anger appeared in his eyes. Not at life, at himself. He spoke one final sentence. I kept waiting for a day when I would feel ready. I did not know that readiness was waiting for me. The old man vanished. Death turned to leave. Before disappearing, he said, I have buried kings. I have buried beggars. I have buried geniuses. But the saddest funeral I ever attended is for the people whose dreams die while their body continued breathing for another 50 years. The lights returned, the phone lit up, a notification appeared. Continue watching. The engineer stared at the screen for a long time. Then he turned it off, not because he suddenly became disciplined, not because he was inspired, but because for the first time in his life he was no longer afraid of dying. He was afraid of surviving after his second death. I think this is closer to what you are searching for, not work hard, but the idea that there is a point where a person can still be biologically alive while having quietly abandoned the habit of becoming. That isn't a scientific claim, it is a literary metaphor, but it is the kind of image that can linger with the reader long after the story ends. Thank you.